10 years, 30 races, over 115 participants from Vietnam and around the world. This is the foundation of Vietnam's largest community sports event series. Featuring challenging trails across mountains and forests.
Mỗi năm tôi muốn chinh phục một cái cự ly để thử thách bản thân của mình, thử thách tuổi trẻ của mình.
Nếu mà chúng ta có ý chí mạnh mẽ này và nghị lực thì chúng ta cũng sẽ vượt qua nó một cách dễ dàng thôi.
Majestic scenery, a unique travel experience unlike anywhere else.
We had such incredible views, which was worth the hike, but it was really awesome.
I enjoy a lot. Here is a very, very beautiful city.
To anyone who's thinking about doing it, I cannot recommend it any more highly.
This is the Vietnam Trail Series, an ambition every trail runner's dreams of fulfilling. It is not simply promoting Vietnam's image and tourism. It is not just contributing to community health. It is also a journey of self-discovery and connecting with nature.
So those were the impressive images of the Vietnam Trail Series, one of the most popular community sports activities in Vietnam, and we are very happy to have David Lloyd, the sport director behind the success of this series. Welcome to Talk Vietnam, David.
Thank you.
Are you busy with the Vietnam Jungle Marathon in Phu Luong, which is happening in a few weeks?
Yeah, very busy with that right now. So we've been out there a lot lately, preparing for the race, and it's always a great pleasure to get out to Phu Luong, which is an area that is really special to me among all of our races. So we're very busy, and we're very happy with how the preparations are going.
You know, the northern Vietnam just experienced historical flooding. So how's the situation now?
Fortunately for Phu Luong, it wasn't as affected as other parts of the north, as you probably know. So whereas up in Lao Cai, where we organised another race, it was impacted very heavily, and we had to delay that race. So that one's been postponed until November. By contrast, in Thanh Hóa and Phu Luong, the effects were much less. So we're able to go ahead with that race.
So before that, Phu Luong Marathon, how many races have you organised?
Well, we've got 4 in our series now. So we have the race in Phu Luong Thanh Hóa, we have a race in Mok Chau San La, and Vietnam Mountain Marathon in Lao Cai in Sapa, like we already said. And then we have Mai Chau as well. But the total number, we've organised around 30 editions of all of the races now.
Over the past
10 years.
10 years. It's such a long commitment to Vietnam. So how did you come to Vietnam? What brought you to Vietnam, and why did you choose to stay?
What brought me to Vietnam, it was not my decision, it was my wife's decision. So we got married back in England, and then our plan was to go travelling and working for a couple of years. And originally the plan was 6 months here, 6 months in Nepal, and then go to Argentina, where I had a friend, and I was planning to do some work out there. And in fact, I was learning Spanish when we first came here, and I had my guidebook for Nepal. I've never been to Nepal, and I haven't been to Argentina either, so we loved it here and ended up settling here. So as I say, 6 months turned into more than 10 years now. I was doing a lot of writing work at that time, so and it was a good time for Vietnam, travel writing particularly. There was more interest internationally in travel here. So I was working with publications like New York Times and some guidebooks published in the UK, such as Footprints.
As a
and
journalist
Guide.
or a photographer?
As a writer and photographer, but the writer was the main thing. And then I started a cycling tour company as well called Velo Vietnam, which takes people on mostly in the north, but also in central Vietnam on bike tours, road bike tours, sort of long distances each day. It made sense to stay because we were enjoying it. So and there's many reasons for that, but one of them is that we started a series, and it's a great job.
In 2011, when David Lloyd came to Vietnam seeking sports-related travel experiences, he had no idea that this would tether him to this country. Using the experience from his travels across Vietnam, he wrote travel guides for the renowned and widely distributed European publisher Footprints, and penned numerous articles introducing Vietnam's beauty to the readers of big-hit magazines and newspapers. He also co-founded Velo Vietnam, offering international visitors long and unique cycling tours across the country. David Lloyd is well known to sports enthusiasts for his 14-hour endurance cycling challenge on Ba Vì Mountain, Hanoi, to raise funds for Newborns Vietnam. The mountain ascent challenge was equivalent of cycling up Mount Everest. A pivotal turning point came in late 2013 when David and fellow sports enthusiasts organized Vietnam's first long-distance trail run, the Vietnam Mountain Marathon in Sapa, establishing a series that continues today.
So you have a very athletic lifestyle. So what brought you to the role of sports director of VTS?
Well, for me personally, it goes right back sort of more than 20 years to the mountains in Wales, where I really fell in love with mountain running. We started with VMM in 2013 as a passion project, really. When I came here, because there wasn't any trail running scene. So yeah, VMM began really through passion from a group of us with a love for trail running and a love for the Vietnam mountains, and actually a complete lack of trail running in Vietnam. So at that time, there was no trail race, there was no ultra race, and there wasn't really any trail running community either. So for example, outside Hanoi now, if you go out to Ham Luet Mountain and Sóc Sơn, you'll see hundreds of runners every weekend. But back then, you would see no runners. We started it because of passion and because there wasn't anything. So from 2013, with 200 runners, almost all overseas, almost all international runners.
So the journey of VTS began with the first Vietnam Mountain Marathon in Sapa in 2013. So tell us more about that. How different is the 2013 event compared to the 2024 event?
Yeah, extremely different. So 2013, 200 runners. And 2024, maybe there'll be 5,000. Couldn't be much more different in terms of scale.
Yeah.
Totally different in terms of who's running, because as we said before, those 200 were almost all international runners, and now we've got thousands of Vietnamese runners, which is excellent and a massive change. If you look at old photos, you can count the people on the start line, and there's space in between them, and now you look at it and it's a huge crowd. And in those early days, there wasn't even a start arch. We just had a bit of tape across the road. I think we had no banners at all, no microphone. And the distances, of course, we used to have 70k was the ultra distance. And yeah, I remember people looking at them, people like they were completely a superhero for finishing 70k. And now I almost feel a bit sorry for the 70k runners at VMM, because you've got the 100k and then the 100-mile runners who come in and take all the limelight.
Kilometers. So after that 2013 VMM, what made you feel confident to continue it?
2013 was a success, I think, because it is a great course. It's an amazing landscape to run through up in Sapa. So you had a great course. It was an awesome atmosphere. Small number of runners coming together and creating something very, very sort of intimate, and it was a beautiful weekend. I think all of us at the beginning thought 200 was great, so we were happy with that as a starting point, and then it was. So that was enough. So if it hadn't grown and grown, we would have kept doing it, I'm sure. But it did grow. So between 2013 and 2016, it went up to from 200 to around 1,500. So at that point, we were definitely confident to bring in more full-time focus on it and expand it. So it was a high level of confidence that we could rely on the growing number of people interested in sport to add more races.
Yeah.
The Vietnam Mountain Marathon debuted in 2013, bringing new energy to Vietnam's sports scene when professionally organized community events were scarce. The event's longest distance, 70 kilometers through Sapa's mountains, saw just one finisher. However, the unique race experience generated significant buzz. The marathon has grown over the years, attracting even greater numbers of Vietnamese and international runners. In 2016, David and his team expanded the race into a series, including new race location and distances. Vietnam Jungle Marathon introduces runners to the nature reserve in Pù Luông, Thanh Hóa. Vietnam Trail Marathon opens in the blossoming springs of Mộc Châu, Sơn La. The latest is the Vietnam Ultra Marathon, which is unfolding in Mai Châu, Hòa Bình, one of Vietnam's most famous tourist destinations. Maximum distances increase up to 100 kilometers and then 100 miles or 161 kilometers, setting extreme challenges for the participants.
So at that time, you have the idea of creating a series of races in various locations. Tell me about the locations that you chose.
So it was 2016 that we thought it's big enough now that we'll make this a full-time team and consciously look to develop other races. The first location that we chose was Phu Luang for the Vietnam Jungle Marathon. And so that one we were looking for really a jungle location and also somewhere that was would really take people to somewhere that would feel adventurous. And at that time, even people in Hanoi, if you said Mai Châu, everybody would know. But if you mentioned Phu Luang, even Hanoi people would often say, "Where is Phu Luang?" So we found somewhere that we thought was this sort of unknown, sort of hidden gem. And then the other locations we looked at following that were more sensible, actually, because we looked then at Mộc Châu, which is, of course, much better known. That was an opportunity for us to introduce a new part of Vietnam to the inbound travel market. We knew that that would be popular here because of Blossom, basically, because we put it in right before the New Year, the Lunar New Year. So therefore, it's when the Blossom opens up. So the runners would be running through blossom-filled plum orchards. And also the trail, apart from that, even without the Blossom, it's an incredible place with great quality trail and great landscape. With Mộc Châu, there's the Korean market, the Japanese market, also markets who appreciate that kind of blossom landscape. And then we also have Mai Châu, which is an area which I'd known for a long time, like a lot of people who've lived here. So I've been there a few times and I thought I knew Mai Châu. But actually when we went there and we set out on the first day of research for the trails, straight away I thought, I don't know Mai Châu at all. I thought I did, but I had no idea all of this nature lies just a few kilometres from it. This new Mai Châu, this other side of Mai Châu that we could introduce to people. So yeah, that's kind of sums up.
So tell us how you navigated through maybe a potential place to organize a race.
So yeah, those are the 4, but I've probably been to at least 10 more that we have chosen to not use. The trail quality is the key. You need to have good route, great landscapes and beautiful views. Back in 2016, 17, there was less, like Google satellite maps were less useful at that time. So we would go and generally find some local people who know the area and go with them, but generally they're not trail runners. So their concept of what is a good way to go is completely different to ours. So that I remember the first day we went in Phu Luang, actually the first few kilometres, we asked them how long is it, and they were guessing something like maybe 1 or 2 kilometres, but it turned out it was more like 5 kilometres and took us most of the day, and was a lot of the Katia rock. Very hard to move through, and I thought this place is totally a nightmare for trail runners and we'll never make a race here. But then when we stopped and we had lunch and we talked a bit more about what kind of thing we'd be looking for runners, then that afternoon we went out and we saw something much more suitable. Then we decided it was a great place for a race. So sometimes it's working with local people to show us like that. Other times we just go now, especially because we can use the Google map with much more detail. We do research on maps, and then sometimes we just go...
on a motorbike or...?
No, on foot. Because you can't, a lot of the places motorbikes can't go. So we're going out there based on what we've laid out on a map, on the satellite map, and just exploring it. Sometimes we get lucky along the way and we'll meet somebody. Maybe it's a farmer, maybe it's a village, and sometimes we'll meet someone and talk about what we're doing, and they'll say, we know a good trail this way, and then we go with them. There's a lot of stories of, we used to joke that we always would say we'd get back before dark, and it was always pitch black by the time we got back, because they always ran on a lot longer than we thought they would.
Okay, so maybe tell me some difficulties you faced in organizing, such a big event.
At the beginning, it was harder, of course, because we had less experience. But now we've done so many, the difficulties are less. We have the good people that we have in the team to take care of it.
What's the most challenging part of the job?
The race weekends are, of course, the most challenging, and it would be Vietnam Mountain Marathon because it's the biggest event and it goes on for more days. Everyone has a different job, and so for the people working on the checkpoints, they're working very long hours and dealing with thousands of runners coming, and we're dealing with a lot of many people, and sometimes quite emotional.
Yeah. How did you ensure the safety of runners?
From the runner side, now if people want to run a 50-kilometre race, for example, they need to have already done a 21k race. So when they sign up, we have a box on sign up to ask their link to prove their experience in another race. That's one thing. And then if you go up into longer distances, then the requirement for their previous experience is also a longer race. We also set out kind of mandatory kit that people must carry when they go on the trail, including things like enough the ability to carry enough water and certain other things that they must take with them. And then from our side, of course, we do a lot of the work. It's pre-race on the inspection, setting out the course. We have sort of a minimum or sort of a longest distance between checkpoints, 12 or 13k, so people will come to a checkpoint frequently enough. A very, very key thing is the marking. So when people join a trail race, they may have the GPX on their watch so they can follow the route, but much more important is they follow the marking that we put along the way. And we pay a lot of attention to that being very, very good.
For amateur runners, completing a full marathon, like 42k, it's already very challenging task. But then VTS extended the length to 50, 70, and 160, as you said. So the number of athletes participating in ultra long distances is increasing. And athletes from Vietnam are also taking more championship positions. So what does it tell you?
Yeah, it tells me that not only the number is rising, but the quality is rising as well. In fact, at the beginning, when we had one Vietnamese female ultra finisher, we put her on stage to say, look, a Vietnamese runner is, and now if we put the Vietnamese women on stage, there's not enough space on the stage, obviously. So, it's transformed completely. Right at the beginning, all of the podiums were international runners. And slowly more and more, particularly at the beginning on the men's side, the Vietnamese runners started to take the podiums. And then started to go overseas and take podiums. And then we had the local star, Ho from Sapa. She emerged and became the absolute number one in Vietnam. So she is really inspiring for a lot of people, I think, because she came to running quite late. So she came to our Vietnam Mountain Marathon, 21k, first proper trail race, beat everybody, including all the men. And then she came to Vietnam Trail Marathon 70k, won that. And now she's winning races in Australia. She won races in Thailand, and she was fourth at the biggest race in the world a couple of weeks ago. So the quality, there's no doubt, it's not just within the region, it's worldwide quality now. So yeah, it's a very exciting time, I think, for Vietnam. And I'm excited to see what is coming next, because there's 100 million people, and there's definitely another one in there, or more than one, really good talent, and I'm hoping that we can discover them.
Thi Hậu, a teacher from Lào Cai, has never received professional running coaching. To improve her fitness, she started with shorter distances in the Vietnam Trail Series and shocked many when she consistently outperformed international competitors to win championships.
Mình bỏ ra thời gian để tập luyện và rất là nghiêm khắc với bản thân. Cuộc sống cũng giống như là đường chạy. Nếu mà chúng ta có ý chí mạnh mẽ này, sự quyết tâm và nghị lực thì chúng ta cũng sẽ vượt qua nó một cách dễ dàng thôi.
Before Thi Hậu, the Vietnam Trail Series helped discover many names that later become prominent figures in the Vietnamese amateur sports community. They not only frequently won domestic sporting events, but also consistently impressed at major international races.
Những cái bạn của tôi tham gia rất là nhiều, từ đó tạo cái sức hút của tôi. Cái độ khó nó tăng dần theo quy mô giải và mỗi năm tôi muốn chinh phục một cái cự ly để thử thách bản thân của mình, thử thách tuổi trẻ của mình.
Về đích là em cảm thấy là cái ước mơ của mình. Thực sự là em cũng có ước mơ là chạy bộ và cầm lá cờ này.
For many runners, it's about pushing their limits and finding new meanings in life. These challenging trails help them accomplish that.
Bộ môn là chạy bộ địa hình thì nó là cả một thách thức. Mình leo cái con dốc rất là mệt và xuống dốc mình rất là sợ, chân mình rất là chùn, vấp ngã rất là nhiều. Cái vấn đề đấy nó không làm mình chùn bước. Mình chỉ nghĩ là khi mình không làm được nhanh thì mình sẽ làm từ từ và cẩn thận hơn. Khi mà mọi người nhìn thấy mình trên đường chạy, mọi người chia sẻ với mình là nhìn thấy mình, mọi người có một cái động lực đi tiếp nhiều hơn, có một cái tinh thần không lùi bước nữa.
Whether it's 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, or astonishing distances like 100 kilometers or 161 kilometers, participants in the Vietnam Trail Series share the goal of achieving the seemingly impossible.
Other trail running events have gradually appeared in other localities, for example, in Đà Lạt, in Cúc Phương, Mù Căng Chải. But however, the running community, they still think of Vietnam Trail Series as one of the must-do. What makes VTS different from other running races? And why there's a growing trend in trail running?
What makes us different? I think one thing is, the big thing is location. So we have unique locations for each of our races. For example, in Phu Luang, you've got Khor Muang, we call the Spike or Mui Zao, lookout area, which is a real sort of check-in kind of place, a wow view that people want to come one time in their life. I look for something like that. In Mok Chau, of course, you've got the Blossom, and then you've got an amazing finish area. It's another thing. Actually, most people who are trail runners want the same thing, which is beautiful landscapes, great trails, good organisation, and with our races coming to a series, like consistency across them. So when they come, they know they're going to get a certain quality. And in terms of the growth in Vietnam, I think, as I say, it's not only here, it's all around. In 2013, so I mean, it was the first mountain run here, and it was the only one for a while. It's actually in the region, in terms of Southeast Asia, it's one of the earlier races. There's not too many races older than Vietnam Mountain Marathon. So, for example, when we had to move our race, going back to 2016 would have been very easy because there were almost no other races. And now we're in the situation of having to find a weekend with no trail races. We're lucky that we're riding that wave, really. I think at the beginning we started it with the trail, but now we're part of something bigger that's growing in Vietnam and in other places.
So maybe it's because people realize that they need to do more physical exercise, and if they have to run, they should run in beautiful.
Yeah. I think people see, I mean, one of the big benefits we have is there's a lot of great photographers and videographers that come to our races, and I don't know, you'll be sharing some of the images that we have, and I think there's a bit of that fear of missing out when people see their friends sharing these great photos on social media. Of course, they want to come and be part of it.
Right.
And so it's part of it, I think, is coming and seeing these amazing places and getting those great photos.
Tell me more about the experience level of your race, because it helped runners to experience the landscape of Vietnam and also culture, I think.
The culture part comes normally at the start or at the closing ceremonies. We'll always have the people from the different ethnic groups come and do the performance of their music or their singing, so people can learn about that at our opening ceremonies and our closing ceremonies. We can create an area where we can serve up good food. So one thing we're known for as well is good food. So we bring our chefs down from Sapa and they make great food for the runners. So somewhere that they can enjoy that together and spend time enjoying.
What kind of food?
Vietnamese food, always Vietnamese foods. In Mok Chau, it's the beef sot vang, and then pumpkin soup, and then they have soy, they have fried rice, they have loads of local sort of cakes that you can get there, and fruits. And then in Phu Luang and in Mai Chau we have, it's the Thai people, so we have that influence coming into our food.
Do you think it's a good example of combining tourism with sports events?
Yeah, so at the beginning it was very much about inbound tourism for us in the first few years. A lot of people will come up from Ho Chi Minh City or Da Nang to the north, and they make it a little mini break. So it becomes a domestic tourism market as well. So we see up to sort of 50% of people coming from within Vietnam. I mean, coming from the south, from Ho Chi Minh City or central Vietnam.
Right.
They're coming on holiday. So it's a really good thing for boosting the local tourism economy in each of the places where we work. We also need support from the local government. So we might go there and find that this place has everything, but if the government aren't behind it and have that vision, then it won't work. At the beginning, with the second race in Phu Luang, there wasn't, because at that time Vietnam Mountain Marathon wasn't huge, and there was only the one race for us to show them. But now when we go to somewhere, like for example, when we went to Mai Cho, we could show them this is what happens in Mok Cho, this is what happens in Sapa. If they connect with that, and which they did very quickly in Mai Cho, then everything is much smoother because it's a mutual benefit.
Yeah.
So they support us, and then we bring not only the tourists for the weekend, but it's one massive advert for the area. When thousands of runners are all sharing beautiful photos of Mai Cho or Sapa, then it's promoting it within Vietnam, and then the international runners, of course, are spreading the word.
With over a decade and 30 events under its belt, the Vietnam Trail Series has attracted more than 115,000 participants across all its distant categories. Many amateur athletes from Vietnam and other countries view the races as exciting parts of their travel experiences with family and friends.
Anh em runner của Lào Cai này, rồi là của Phú Thọ hay là của Hà Nội đã lên đây để giao lưu với nhau, để có những giây phút để trải nghiệm một cung đường thật là tuyệt vời của Sapa.
Chạy qua những cái ruộng bậc thang hay là những con dốc trong rừng này, hay là chạy qua những cái bản làng được mọi người cổ vũ rất là nhiệt tình, thế nên là rất là hưng phấn để mà chạy, cố gắng để chạy hết cự ly ạ.
Qua cái giải này thì có ý nghĩa để tiếp tục quảng bá những cái hình ảnh về vùng đất, về con người và văn hóa của Sapa đối với lại bạn bè đông đảo ở trên thế giới này. Chúng tôi sẽ phối hợp thật tốt với lại ban tổ chức để tiếp tục thu hút cái sự quan tâm và tham gia của các vận động viên ở trên thế giới, và qua đó tiếp tục quảng bá tốt hơn nữa cái hình ảnh của du lịch Sapa.
Đây là cơ hội mà để cho Mộc Châu quảng bá hình ảnh của mình, vẻ đẹp thiên nhiên mà đã được thế giới ghi nhận, để cho bạn bè khắp năm châu biết đến Mộc Châu và sẽ đến Mộc Châu, yêu Mộc Châu nhiều hơn.
For international athletes, the Vietnam Trail Series offers rare chances to explore Vietnam's pristine beauty, something typical tourism could never provide.
Scenery was gorgeous, and now we're in these amazing tea fields, so I love it.
It was crazy. We had such incredible views, which was worth the hike, but it was really awesome.
It was nothing short of incredible, so hopefully one day I get to go back and do that race again, because it was absolutely insane. And to anyone who's thinking about doing it, I cannot recommend it any more highly.
The racecation concept, combining running and travel, has gained popularity, underlining the rise of sports tourism. With its professional organization and focus on nature experiences, Vietnam Trail Series increasingly draws tourists to Vietnam, effectively promoting the country.
The localities also benefit a lot from events you organize because it can create income and new jobs for local people. For example, the homestay business. So how do you think about that aspect?
I don't know how much of a part that our race played in that, but perhaps it helped. If we want to have a race with thousands, then we need thousands of beds. That you can have in Mai Cho, you can have in Mok Cho. At the beginning in Phu Luang, it didn't have that. And luckily now Phu Luang has developed so much that there are now enough rooms that we can have 1,500 runners there. We've created a lot of homestays in the finish line. So in the village of Ban Hang, there were 2 homestays already, but we worked with families to create real homestays in homes. So it was normally, as I say, 2, and it became 35 houses. It was beautiful, that first race. You had runners coming in from all over the world, and you could walk through the village in the evening and people would be sitting sort of underneath the stilt house, and you could hear a French accent, an American accent and a Vietnamese accent, and people had come together in this remote place that you would never have picked to bring that area a bit more a bit more fame. And I think it's great, of course, because it brings more jobs, and that's a good thing for the area. And the other places in Sapa, I think it's been good for advertising Sapa, because perhaps a lot of the images you see out of Sapa are of the main area, the main town, whereas our race shows people a lot more of the area, so people perhaps go out and explore more. I don't know how much our race has had a part in that, but if it's had any small part, then I'm happy that we've contributed. Yeah.
What about changes in the localities where you organize races over the past 10 years? Any positive changes? Any negative ones?
Yeah, the biggest change is Sapa town. It's huge compared to what it was. The town itself has changed. The trail is different now. We had to move the trail a lot because of development, concrete being added, which of course concrete between villages is excellent if you live in the village and you want to get around. So it's good for the daily life. As I said, with Pulung, there's been a lot of development there in terms of accommodation. When we began, there was one hotel with a swimming pool, and now I don't even know how many there are, so there's been a massive change there. And I think for the most part, it's positive. That generally the development has been good, for sure, and we just have to adapt to make sure we keep taking runners onto the trail and into the nature around it.
Until now, the Vietnam Trail Series has contributed over $400,000 or over 11 billion Vietnamese đồng to community charity activities. Their contributions support organizations like Newborns Vietnam, aiming to reduce the mortality rate in newborns, and Operation Smile, changing the lives of children with cleft lips and palates. One of the most prominent impacts was via Blue Dragon Foundation, which helps homeless children and victims of human trafficking in Vietnam. With funding from the Vietnam Trail Series, since 2020, the Blue Dragon Foundation has rescued 26 trafficking victims, provided safe housing for 61 homeless children, offered emergency care for 97 children with psychological trauma, and supplied 420 nutritious meals to children and families in difficult circumstances. The Vietnam Trail Series also donated race entries worth $84,000 or 2 billion Vietnamese đồng to fundraising runners. The organization also assisted local communities along the race routes, such as building boarding schools to improve education and living conditions for children in remote areas.
VTS was able to raise over 11 billion Vietnamese đồng, right, for charitable activities. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, so it's always been a big part of our race is contributing to charity. And we have a few charities that we work with that are the national charities here. So we have a long-term partnership with Operation Smile. So for them, it's just providing money for them to do the facial surgery. They've had kids coming from Sapa and from Pulung into Hanoi to receive that surgery, which is incredible, of course, life-changing surgery. And then Huay Help is another organisation which teaches kids swimming and teaches teachers to teach kids swimming, because there's a high drowning rate, unfortunately, and they're working to reduce that here. So that's some of the examples, and then we also do some work ourselves. So, for example, around the race course, one example would be at Vietnam Mountain Marathon in Sapa. There's a lot of schools that we've helped construct. Actually, last week, when I was up in Sapa checking and doing some work on that race, we stopped and went and checked out one of the houses that has been built there by us, and we just, because there was some landslides quite close to it, so we wanted to go and see was that affected by the storms. We said before, we take money every year and donate it to different projects. Normally, a percentage of it will go to a national project, but given the impact of the storm, we took the 100% of this year's funding and committed it to the recovery efforts. There was road clearance that needed to be done and people who'd lost everything. So instead of waiting, some of our staff from our Sapa office actually just went straight out to find out what was needed, and people had lost everything. So they needed cookers, they needed food. So at the beginning it was just real the basics. Right. And now moving on post-storm, it's going to be a bit more strategic about it and look at in that area and look at where is the funding needed. So it will be used for sort of house reconstruction.
So let's talk a little bit about yourself. What, if not VTS, has kept you in this country?
It's mixed together really, because my passion is the mountains and the trails and the outdoors. They kind of go hand in hand. Family being happy and the job being good, and as I say, I love the place in terms of the food is great, the lifestyle is good, and friends here now. This thing, having been here a long time, there's a lot of very good friends here. The fact that the company and the races do contribute to the community, so it's not pure business. I'm very proud of that. A source of pride that we creates healthier, active lifestyles. I mean, 10 years of amazing experiences out on the trail, meeting so many great people, seeing so many great places, just having incredible experiences, finding these unknown or previously lesser known spots. Like, for example, I remember going in a Vietnam Mountain Marathon for the first time up to the top of Lloyd Cow Hill up there, and just feeling like, how have we never been here before? This is one of the most incredible places. It's right near Sapa, but until that point, it wasn't really known that much. People didn't go up there. So feeling that we kind of found something and knowing we're going to bring thousands of people to this place and they're going to experience it too. We still have to go and check the areas, and things change in the areas. So we probably will have new experiences within those 4 places. Every time we go back, we find there's something has changed, concrete's been added, we have to go and find something new. So yeah, a lot of special experiences that I would only have ever had if I'd come to Vietnam.
If you have to tell people who come to Vietnam to run, I mean, explore Vietnam through running, what advice do you have for them?
For those coming inbound from other countries, my main advice is do it. This is an amazing place to run. If you want the big race experience, then join a race with thousands of others. Main thing is you won't regret it. We had loads of runners come in from overseas to compare the race experience here with their race experience wherever they came from, and they're always really amazed that it's the as higher level experience than they have.
You've been here for 10 years. After all, what does Vietnam mean to you?
It means a lot to me. I've got so much from living here. I feel like I owe Vietnam a lot. And it's a place that has brought me a lot of happiness. My family's started here, so really it means second home to me. I've done a lot of travelling here, but there's still certainly a lot more places to experience. There's loads of Vietnam that I can still discover. I'm sure, not for work, but just for personally. And I'd like to join more other races, hopefully with a bit of time allowing, maybe when the kids are a bit older. There are loads of races in Vietnam that I'd love to join, and perhaps when I retire, I will.
Well, I think that's it for this episode, and thank you so much for your time. We wish you all the best for your future endeavors, you and your family.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And that has wrapped up this episode of Talk Vietnam. Thank you very much for watching, and see you again next time.